What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And I'm excited tonight. My guest, my first non-pro wrestling personality. So this is kind of a big deal for our show, but I'm excited to have on Viktor Lyall. He's an amateur MMA fighter. He's also making his pro boxing debut this Saturday. So make sure you go and check it out. Also, guys, you may have seen a viral video of my guest, Viktor Lyall, which we're going to get into. We will discuss, but we're going to be discussing many things across many topics. So you were in for a treat. But before we get into it, let's take a quick pause for the cause to thank our amazing sponsor, Sleefs.com. Now, that's SLEEFS, Sleefs.com. Now, if you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to check out Sleeves. They've got all your athletic gear and accessories, I guess, all covered. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you always hear me raving about. Guys, go and check out Sleeves.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Now, guys, if you're finding us, I appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, share, hit the bell to stay notified, leave a comment. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. I appreciate it. It helps us reach more amazing people and bring more amazing guests on the show. So we appreciate it. But, guys, let's get into tonight's episode with Viktor, the Impaler, Lyall. Boom, we're live. Bro, thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
All good, thanks. This is my first ever live discussion, so I'm a bit shy, a bit embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed, shy. So yeah.
Hey, bro, don't be shy, man. We'll get into many.
I've got some props. I'm gonna rotate off and on to hide my face. So yeah.
Is that a Gucci hat?
Yeah. It is fake. I've got a real Prada hat, but I got a Gucci get up in Thailand. So you guys are gonna have to find out which parts are fake, which parts are real. So who knows?
There you go, man. But you just recently got back from a trip to Thailand, man. You were training at Tiger Muay Thai, correct?
I was training kind of everywhere. So I was just exploring where the best was. I'm just kind of someone who tries to learn as much as possible. So I was just going everywhere. Trying to learn from people.
Yeah, nice. How did you find Tiger Muay Thai? Because when I was in Thailand, I went and trained there, and I really enjoyed it. I thought their facility was pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's sick. The facilities are sick. I don't know, man. It's just there's just so much knowledge there. So that's the good thing about that area. There's so many good coaches, so much good knowledge. I got into a few fights with some foreigners in the gym.
Oh, really?
But just egos and stuff, but it's part of the game. So I'm missing a tooth. I do have all my teeth. For everyone watching, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, but I have what's called an occlusion. So I've got a fake tooth, and it got kicked out, and my lip got split open. I had to get stitches. So that's why I've got no teeth for this podcast.
Oh, damn, bro. Hey, I got to take a quick second to shout out Josh Tattersall, big fan of the podcast, sending out a hey to you. Josh is a young man who has just been found out he's in remission. He just came through his second bout of leukemia. Josh, big shout outs to you, brother. Thank you for tuning in.
G'day.
But dude, was that your first time going to Thailand?
Yeah, it was my first time in Thailand.
Yeah. And like, did you stay like in the Phuket area or did you travel around while you were there?
Fuck, bro. So I've got a weird makeshift set up here. I stayed in like Shillong, which is like where all the fighters kind of seem to be and where all the fight camps are. So yeah, I didn't really know much about it. Like when I travel, I like to just kind of not research and just rock up and do my own thing. So that's kind of what I did and just explore. So yeah.
You mentioned, like getting into a couple of fights in the gym, bro. Due to egos, is that like sparring just getting out of hand, or is that like, you know what I mean?
Well, honestly, for me, it's like I'm not that big. Like I'm only I'm only like 85 kilos, but I'm pretty good at fighting. So I get thrown in with like massive dudes. Like I was sparring all these heavyweights, and like a lot of them are cool, but they get frustrated. They can't hit me. I was like dodging, and then I kept tagging them. A couple of dudes in particular, and then they just get pissed off and start trying to take your head off. Usually it's dudes who aren't real fighters, like who aren't very experienced though. It's just kind of more novice guys, and they I probably look like I'm throwing hard because I'm thick, and if you're like way taller than me, I'm throwing overhands because you're way taller than me. But yeah, I don't know, dudes just get pissed off, and then yeah. One of them had 12-ounce gloves on, so I was pretty pissed off with him. We had a big fight in the middle of the gym about it, but yeah, that's all good. It's shit that happens in gyms, man. So whatever.
Bro,
Fun.
I had that. I had that happen in a gym I was training at years ago, where this guy came up to me after like a session. He goes, "Hey, you want to do a sparring session?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no worries." I put on like 16 or 18-ounce gloves, and this guy puts on like the same 12-ounce gloves, and I'm like, "Really, bro?" And he goes, "Oh, no worry, I won't throw any headshots." And literally, the first 4 punches he throws are like hooks and like jabs to my fucking head, and I'm like, "Dude, really?" Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I actually at this stage of my life, like I actually don't spar with people like that I don't know. I don't really get anything out of it, and if they, for me, training and fighting is like an everyday thing. So I'm not trying to win. I don't really give a fuck. But when people spar with me, they're trying to prove something. If I don't know them, it's just not really, you don't get much out of it. So like dudes, some random like a lifting gym the other day came up to me and asked to spar with me, and I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna get anything out of that, man. Like I'll hurt you and I'll get in trouble, or I'll let you hurt me and then I'll go home with a headache. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not worth it, man. And it's interesting, bro, because like, when I saw your video like the first time, the viral video, I kind of like watched it and I'm like, it surprises me how many people like are so keen to just get into a physical fight with someone. They have no idea who the fuck they are or like what the fuck they can do. You know what I mean? Like so eager and keen to do that. It's like bro, like I don't know if it's like alcohol that fuels these motherfuckers or like what the deal is, bro. But like I look at it and just go like, how do you have these balls that are just like willing to go in there and fight someone you
I
have
think
no idea what they're about?
I think it's just human nature, man. Like it's just natural, to be honest. If people don't have a conduit for it nowadays, they've never learned that there's ramifications for their actions. And yeah, like I said, there's no conduit for it, especially like men, like there's just bad role models nowadays, and yeah, they don't really get their egos tested in the real world much anymore. So yeah, I think it's normal really to fight. It's just it needs to be done in the correct avenue for some men, but it needs to be done in the correct avenues and the correct arenas and that kind of stuff.
Oh, 100%. Like if you're willing to go to a gym and train and put the work in and go and compete but not even to have it with the mentality of like, hey, I want to go in there and fuck someone up, or I want to go in there and throw hands. Like for me, when I was training, it was always like, I want to see how far I can push myself. And I found like combat sports to be the thing that would push you to your limits physically and mentally. And it's like you even said before, like frustration in the gym, like you sparring with someone and you're getting tagged. Like that's the sort of shit, when you train in good gyms, that kind of stuff is kept in check. Like you have to keep that in check when you aspiring, because at the end of the day, in that gym, you are learning. But that to me was always my thought process when it came to combat sports, is how far I could push my physical and mental limit.
Mm. Yeah, I'm probably similar in that way. Like for me, it's just an impetus that I have to do. Like when I'm not engaged in that kind of stuff, I kind of get depressed and life feels a bit empty. yeah, I don't know. It's a weird spiritual thing for me. I just feel impelled to be a fighter or a combateer, pugilist, whatever.
100%, dude. But like, touching on the video, like I remember like sitting there watching it, and it was like, I think it was labeled "one guy takes on two dudes" or something like that when I first saw it. And I'm like watching it, and I'm seeing like how you're keeping your distance, how you're moving around and stuff like that. And I'm going, this isn't just some regular punter. This is a guy who trains. Because like seeing that whole interaction with you and those two guys, like you could see you keeping like distance and coming in. Like when you struck, when you moved, you came in with a purpose and then you moved the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like you weren't there, you know, you weren't putting yourself in a dangerous situation at any point.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just yeah, keeping them in the correct position and maintaining the correct position myself, I guess. I've been in like a lot of confrontations like that with multiple opponents, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like I want to release a reel on it later talking about how to deal with multiple people. It sounds kind of cringy, but it's definitely I'm definitely experienced in it. Like I feel like if you just walk backwards, they're gonna have to converge on a particular point. And if you also walk backwards, one of them's gonna have to engage you first, or they're both gonna have to go away. Like it's quite hard for people to really get around you if you maneuver correctly. So that's all I was kind of really doing. And yeah.
Yeah, because you could also like I felt like you kept your composure throughout the whole time as well. Like, because there was clear moments there where you could have really done some damage, you know, looking at it, but you stayed very, very composed. How did the whole situation happen? Like, were these people like coming to attack you, or were they like yelling shit out at you, like following you? What was the whole start of this?
So I explained the full story on the other like my last podcast, which I won't go and spend too long going into it, but it was just a fight. They were just fighting. It was 2 versus 1, and I was just watching. And then it got like really like people who don't know how to fight kind of suck at hurting each other, to be honest. And it just becomes an ugly mess. And I was just watching and I was like, no one's really getting hurt. But then once it looked like people were getting hurt, I just broke it up. And I think that dude just wanted to test me, I guess, and he did. So
Yeah, man. Nah,
yes, I do
absolutely.
grappling. Of course I do grappling. I love grappling.
You have to do grappling in the MMA game. But like even you know in that interaction, you know the girl screaming and stuff like that. How did you block out that outside noise and interference? And was there a moment that you thought she was going to try and physically engage you?
So she actually did before the video started. She slapped me in the face, or it was a slap or a punch. It was pretty hard. I've actually got that on video as well. Um, and then I just kind of blocked, and she like kept running into me, and then they all started screaming like, "Are you going to hit a woman?" out loud to I don't know, turn the crowd against me or something. Um, but I don't know. I don't really give a fuck if a girl slaps me, you know, whatever. Like I said last time I was talking about this, I've been abused many times. I've been in so many real life confrontations with chicks screaming up in my face, spitting on me, scratching me, rubbing period blood on me. It just
Fuck.
didn't. It just didn't really. I just didn't really care that much, to be honest. There's no real amazing cerebral reason for it. I think yeah, I don't know. There was just like two people that were actually in endangering me. So I just kept my eye on them and ignored the chick, I guess.
So like after the altercation and everything that's sort of blown up on social media, like you know, like getting this media attention, was that something like that? You know what I mean? Like what like are you an outward like kind of person like that? Do you like to sort of get that sort of attention, or are you sort of more of an introvert?
I'm definitely more of an introvert, but I've been like posting stuff and talking about things, and I've always had that quite a weird individualistic take on the world and way of training. So a lot of my old friends were messaging me being like, it's good you kind of have this spotlight now, and a medium because you have such an interesting way of doing things and talking about things. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to be myself and continue my career as I always wanted to continue. So I guess it makes no difference for me. The good thing though is like I've so many people have been sending me messages. I'm getting thousands I don't know. I don't know how many messages, but I'm getting many messages. And it feels good for me to be able to impart my wisdom and experience with people. I'm trying to answer as many messages as I can, and a lot of people have told me stories about things that my prior experiences and knowledge can help them with, and that's humbling. It's cool. I'm happy about that.
Oh, absolutely, man. And, I think that it's a good opportunity to turn it into a positive as well for a lot of ways as well. But have the other two guys from that confrontation contacted you since, or reached out to you on social media, or has there been any communication?
I don't really want to talk about them because I don't, it's all in the past now. The fight's over. I want to talk about new things, but uh, they. I don't want to get into a social media back and forth. They just made up some story that didn't happen, I think, to kind of hide their shame. And I think they went to the cops, but the cops kindly asked me not to talk about what happened with the police. So I'm not going to do that.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't give a fuck what they do.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Yeah, fucking bro. But moving on to that, and on to new things. This Saturday, you have your pro boxing debut coming up, man.
Yeah. So
how's that sort of come about?
yeah, so it's actually next Saturday. I'm in camp for 2 fights at the moment. So I've got my next pro XFC fight is in October. We're planning. And this pro boxing fight is next weekend. It originally happened because I've just always wanted to have a pro boxing fight. And originally I wanted to have it at the start of the immediately after my last fight, but I just couldn't get the correct matchup, couldn't get the correct show, and there's just too much drama, not drama, issues in the way of me fighting. So I've been wanting that for a while, and I just thought, fuck it, let's do it. And then I got a match up, and yeah, I'm fighting.
Yeah, nice. And the person you're fighting, are they also with how's their record compared? Obviously this is your first pro boxing match, but is this their first match? Where are they sort of coming in?
I have no idea about them, to be honest. I just trust my coach and the promoter. I don't think they're a seasoned boxer. I think it's a good matchup. Yeah, I'm just gonna go in there and fucking fight. So it's all good.
Is it training for a boxing fight compared to doing MMA and stuff MMA training? Have you had to sort of adjust and sort of cut back?
Dude, it's the worst, dude. You go, I'm going and sparring boxers and they're beating the piss out of me, and I'm just taking it. And in my head, I'm like, I could fucking I could end this right now. But that's what's cool about MMA. That's what's cool about being a fighter. Sometimes MMA sucks because you get your ass kicked everywhere. I go to jiu-jitsu gym, I get smashed. I get smashed by wrestlers, I get smashed by boxers, I get smashed by kickboxers. We get smashed everywhere all the time, as MMA fighters, really, because we're fighting specialists all the time. But the interesting thing about me as an MMA fighter and all MMA fighters is that we're always dangerous. Boxers don't just tee off on me and have nothing to worry about because they'll get tagged and they'll get tagged badly. Same with, I'll pull off crazy subs against jiu-jitsu guys who are good. I'll pull off crazy takedowns. I'll pull off crazy head kicks on kickboxers. MMA fighters are just dangerous motherfuckers. So we always got to keep that in our head, but it's definitely humbling to always, I feel like being the underdog and fighting an uphill battle as an MMA fighter. That is if you venture out of your own gym and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
So, growing up, were you always training in martial arts or some
No.
sort of combat? When did
No,
it start?
I sucked at sports, man. My dad, so all my uncles are fighters, and they're quite kind of masculine people. And I grew up around a lot of good role models, I believe, but I always sucked at all sports, really. I was just a dork that fucking played video games and was lonely. And I wasn't really good at sports. I was always good at the physical aspect of sports though. I was always getting fouled, pulling fouls off, tackling people. But I just had no skills in anything, really. And but my dad and my uncles I looked up to were all very trained, very highly trained fighters. And I always looked up to those guys, but I never really trained. My dad taught me to kick and punch from 4 years old, but I didn't really do any formal training until I was about 13, I think.
Yeah, wow.
But I could already fight pretty well from just fighting, and also I've been in a million fights, and also just my dad teaching me how to punch and kick. I could head kick from 3 years old till now. So yeah.
No shit, that's impressive. Was your dad like a pro fighter? Like, do you have like memories of going and watching him fight?
No, so two of my uncles have had pro kickboxing fights, not long careers, but they were quite respectable. They were just old school like freestyle karate people when it was pretty tough back in the day, and they just fucking punched on a lot, to be honest. And they used to tell me these stories and stuff, and punched on with each other. Like my dad's one of five brothers. And yeah, man, like I looked up to him. I never really was like them. But I just looked up to them, I guess, and I think it was a natural path for me. It's weird that I found it so late, but it was always a natural path for me to end up being a fighter. Like I always had that fighting spirit, as well. Like I've always been happy to fight, I guess, if shit happens, even if I'm scared. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's always being ready. Like, if you're getting bullied or you're in a situation, it's like, well, shit. You know what I mean? There's no other choice but to throw hands here. You know what I mean? And I think having that sort of training and having that sort of knowledge and understanding as well, and that willingness to step in and do that when it's needed, man, takes balls.
yeah, maybe. Like I've always been scared as much as anyone else, but I've always been like, I'm not gonna go home and like look at myself in the mirror and think I'm a pussy. You know what I mean? And I always thought like, fuck it. I don't know if I die. I don't know. Like I think a hallmark of being a powerful man is, even from an evolutionary standpoint, a biological standpoint, is risk-taking behavior, and not in a way that is irresponsible, but for greatness we have to sacrifice things. For greatness we have to be fucking fodder. And all throughout history, men have died to create great things, and have died to sacrifice themselves for the community and for the people they love. So I think I've always embraced, I guess, that inside me, and I thought, well, if I'm just gonna if I'm just going to be I don't know what the word is, like not a victim, but like a number, then that's what I'll be. Like that's part of being a man. So fuck it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And you know, going into like, when you did start fighting and start having fights, were like your uncles and your dad, they're like your biggest supporters? Like were they all in and going, yeah, like
Yeah, it's funny because growing up, I was always like this sensitive kid, and I always cried. Like my uncles are all tough tradies, and like I'd work with them on job sites and end up crying. We'd argue about shit. I've always been like very like individualistic and believed in my own thing. So we'd have these arguments, and I'd be crying fucking all the time. Um, but yeah, now they're by far my biggest supporters. It's funny because I would never cry in an argument now. Like I remember when I was a teenager, I was still crying, and I was like, why can't I stop this? Like it's so embarrassing, because I was just so sensitive. And yeah, it's funny, like the only after years and years of working security and stuff, I never broke mentally. But my dad, the only person, like the last time I cried was arguing with my dad. We had this argument I think like last year, and I just burst into tears, and he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, are you right? And I'm like, I don't know, just something about my dad arguing with him makes me cry. I don't know why we're talking about crying though, because I don't think men should cry, to be honest. But yeah. So they always supported me. It was weird. I always had this kind of competitive aspect to the men that I looked up to in my life. Like I wanted to be them, but I also they also competed with me, and I also kind of competed with them. So I had to earn their respect, and I guess I did eventually. And yeah, it's a good feeling.
What made you like flip the switch from going from being like an emotional person to being like to turning that switch off and being like not unemotional but stopping that side of you? Because that, like, did you get therapy for it, or was it just something that you just kept forcing yourself to stop doing each?
I've had therapy before, but we didn't really gloss over that kind of stuff. What my personality was, I was always I feel really embarrassed talking about this, by the way. So I'm going to talk about it, but it's not easy for me. But throughout my teens and stuff, I was always very, very sensitive and very emotional. And, people bullied me and stuff. It really hurt me, and everything really hurt me. Even arguing with my parents hurt me. But I just kind of said, like, men aren't supposed to be emotional, and I'm fucking not. I'm stoic. And I just repressed all my emotions. And throughout my middle to late teens and early to middle 20s, I just displayed no emotion. I was never happy, never never really had fun. I I just kind of repressed everything. I was just like a cyborg machine. All I did was like go to uni, study, lift weights angrily, uh, and work. It's just what I did for years and years and years and years. And I kind of bottled up everything inside me. So that kind of helped me, like it sounds not healthy, but it helped me channel my emotions in a way that was uh they didn't control me, and I didn't cry, I didn't get upset. I was just nothingness, you know what I mean? And it's funny because then everyone who knows me from my 20s and stuff, I have this, people think I'm like not friendly, or they think I'm really kind of mean or arrogant because I have this very, I guess, harsh demeanor that I developed. But then through my mid to late 20s, I kind of came to terms with my sensitivity, and I also became a more confident person through trial and error, through working and failing, and through success. And I managed to kind of do away with a lot of those negative repressed emotions through the exhibition of using them in success. But sometimes I look back on the young me, and I'm kind of envious of, oh, sorry, my stand just fell. I'm kind of envious of the young me, because the young me was just stoic, fortitude, didn't give a fuck. And there's something to be said for that in life as well. So yeah, I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. You know, I personally think that like showing emotion doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. I think crying is okay, but like if you're doing it on a daily basis and there's everything that triggering you that you burst into tears, I think that that is an issue. You know, but I think that if you're emotional, you got stuff going on, then yeah, like expressing it is completely normal.
Mm.
But you know, for the most part, like you know, you said like from your teens to your early 20s, you were very like, you know, closed off, stoic, you know, cut out emotions. Um, look at this
These ones are
costume.
real. These are real good cheese.
That's good. Like once you were in your early 20s, like what was there another flip of the switch where you were like, okay, I can sort of start to sort of like unwind and not be so like angry or like start showing emotion? Like what happened there?
Well, first of all, the human brain, especially our emotional and empathetic side, isn't fully developed until we're 25. And I think developmentally, personally, I'm a very, very late bloomer. I think I was growing up until I was 28, maybe even now. You know, my skull shape, my I don't know. It's hard to describe. I'm just a very late bloomer. So I guess growing up was a big part of it. Another big part of it though was just I like when I was 16, I looked at myself in the mirror. When I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you're ugly, you're dumb, you have no money, you're a loser. Um, and I had all these negative emotions, and I was like, well, I don't want to be like that when I'm 25 or 26 or 27 or 28. Like I never went out when I was young because I was too insecure to leave my house. I remember I had like internet girlfriends on like MSN or whatever, or even my actual girlfriend. If she's watching this, she'll laugh. Like sometimes I just wouldn't even go out of my house because I was so insecure. Because I thought I was ugly. So, but then the flip side of that is like I said, well, these are all things I can rectify. These are all superficial things I can rectify. So I simply did things to enable me to overcome those boundaries, and then that takes time. And then after an amount of time, I managed to, I guess, overcome them more and more as the days go by.
Yeah. And I think that that's as you said, like the brain being fully developed at 25 and, you know, having those emotions, you know, understanding as well. And I think as well, like you got to take in to consideration as well, like life experiences and stuff like that. You know, you mentioned working, you know, security, and, you know, as well over the years. You know, I used to work in a security role as well in pubs and clubs. So I know what you see in that job is very much like, you know, you can see a lot of wild and crazy shit, from people ODing to like people fucking having a seizure or whatever like, yeah, to then like 5 minutes later, someone wanting to fucking throw a glass at your head. So I can understand like, but you know what I mean? Like those are the experiences that I think that you learn to keep that sort of, certain times you got to keep that emotion in check. And those are the sort of times I think you experience.
That's the reason I chose to do that job when I was only 18 too, because I was like, I need to grow up. But I also want to add another thing too that I forgot to say before, and that's like, as you get older, you realize the world isn't so much about you. You know what I mean? Like insecurities and all this shit. Ultimately, in a way, sometimes it's a form of narcissism, because you think you're so central to the universe that it matters so much. And in a way, it does. You know, because you're also the master of your own destiny. So you have, well, I am anyway. I have you have your own work ethic and stuff to thank it, and you should also take ownership of your failures and your successes. But like ultimately, it's juvenile to sit there and fucking whinge and say, oh, you know, I'm this and that, and you know, it's a turn off when I hear girls talk about that. It's a turn off when you hear guys talk about that, because it's just narcissism. It's like, you're not the most central, important figure in existence. So get out there and live your life, man. You know?
Yeah, 100%. And it even comes down like people that are like, you know, so wrapped up in their own mind, they don't take into consideration. It could be like, oh, you know, a person's like made a phone call to a friend, that friend hasn't answered because they're just fucking busy, right? But that person will then go, oh, why the fuck didn't they call? And then like obsess over that shit. And then it's like, dude, now you're just being a clingy bitch. But you know what I mean? Like, but some people are like that, where it's like they think in their own world, where they think the universe just revolves around them when it doesn't.
I think all of us ultimately are like that. And it's an ongoing battle. You know, it's an ongoing battle to not be that way. You know, it sounds a bit cringy when talking about the ego death and the ego and all this and that. It's like this hippie thing, but I subscribe to that perspective. You know, I think we're on a constant battle between maintaining a healthy ego and building up our ego, because I believe we need our ego. We don't want to have no ego, but it's also a constant battle of regulating our ego and realizing that not everything in life is so about me. And you know, sometimes it's good to just not worry about stuff and let it go and let other people win. You know, like in arguments, sometimes it's better to just have peace and not win. You know what I mean? You know, I had an argument with my mom the other day. I don't want to talk about personal stuff, but just apologize, man. You know, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, sometimes people on the street, you know, just apologize, let it go. Don't worry about it.
But that's the thing, I find like a lot of people that get caught up on, you know, small dramas and stuff, you know, they're stuck in ego. They're stuck in that moment where they can't just be present and just let it go and look at it from like a bigger perspective and just go, you know what? Cool. Just, I'm pissed off for that moment, but like, why am I going to hold on to that tension? Just like not be stuck, let it go, and just move on into the present.
Yeah, for sure. I think things that help with that is definitely meditation. Like, I think everyone should experiment with meditation. I don't I don't want to advocate illicit recreational drug use either, but I think it's very difficult to talk about, because I have quite a liberal perspective with that kind of stuff, including like I hate alcohol. I don't really drink at all. But I think all drugs and alcohol are tools we can use to like regulate and understand our existence. It's just that people get addicted and people fuck their lives up with them. But you know, people do that with all kinds of things. I've had some pretty like what's the word, like profound experiences from doing those kind of things that help me break away from my ego, but also to ascertain my ego as well. But yeah, I don't really advocate, like I don't think people should do that stuff until they're older, like in their late 20s, actually mid to late 20s. And also you know, they have to be very careful with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, as you said, as we mentioned before, you know, understanding, you know, your brain being developed at a certain age, like kids going and getting into, you know, drugs and alcohol at a young age is not a good idea. But when you're older,
Man, I think the age of drinking, I think the age of adulthood is way too young. Like it should at least be 25, if not older. Like I have no idea. I don't think kids should be being put on trial as adults at like 18, 19, 20. I don't think they should. I think they should be able to experiment with those kind of things on the guidance, but going like night clubbing, all that kind of stuff, it's too rough. Like it's too rough for those for young people. That's my personal view. You know, I'm a bit more conservative about that kind of stuff, but I'm very not conservative as you progress in life as well. So.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. And look, I agree to a certain extent as well. I think like 18, you know, even then 18, 19, I think like, and I apologize to anyone who's watching who is 18 or 19, but I still think you're a kid at that age. Mind you, I'm 40 years of age. So like that's a 20 year, there's a whole different, you know, age gap there. But, you know, I think as well, like at 18, 19, you know, by going into those you know, nightclubs and going in and drinking and stuff like that, like you don't understand like what this can do to you, but you also don't understand like the environment as well. Like, you know, I'm from Sydney, so like, do you remember like years ago they had the lockout laws change here in Sydney?
Yeah,
because it was one punch attacks, and there was a kid who was out celebrating his 18th birthday, got fucking blindside punched out of fucking nowhere, and just, you know what I mean? He was dead. His head hit the ground. He was out. He was gone. That was one of the contributing factors to the lockout laws. And like this kid's brother, I think, who was like a few years younger, like he ended up committing suicide, you know, because of his brother's loss. So you like 18 years old going out in King's Cross, like a few years ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. 18, 19, I think you're old enough to have fun. You're old enough to do heaps of things. You're old enough to work and live as an adult. You know, I think you're borderline adult at 18, 19 for sure. But there's some things, man, like, yeah, King's Cross at 18, 19, like, fuck no, man. Yeah, like, it's weird. It's weird because I was working in a nightclub at that age as a security guard. And I remember, yeah, man, I had braces on as well. And I was small, man. I've been king hit like at least 5 times. But I remember, I don't know if this is diverging if I tell a story. Should I tell a story?
No, go for it, man, please.
I remember I was only 18 and my boss came up to me and he was like, go kick that guy out. And I was like, why? And he's like, because he's drunk. And I'm like, well, how do you know? And he's like, I know, kick him out. And I'm like a kid, and this dude was like 35, and I'm like, what? Like, how the fuck am I gonna do that? I was so scared, man. And I walked up to him and was like, hey man, like you gotta go. And he's like, what? And I'm like, hey man, you gotta get out of here. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, oh, you gotta leave, you're too drunk. And all his friends just laughed at me. And I was there for like 15 minutes trying to talk to this guy. And they basically just laughed at me and told me to get fucked. And then my boss came in and ended up getting rid of them. But it was like an interesting just like experience for me because I had to go and tell a grown man what to do at 18 years old, which is preposterous. You know what I mean? But it's cool. Like, and then, you know, and then 3 months later, I was doing like 50 a night. So like that, you can be mature at that age, but it should be controlled and under guidance. Like, yeah, man, like getting king hit and stuff. I had way more trouble when I was young. People attacked me more and harassed me more and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Why was that though? Like, was it just like you were?
I just looked like a freak. I just looked like a weirdo, but I never backed down either. Like my I don't know if I told this story in the last podcast. I don't think I did. Yeah, one time I was walking in South Bank with my girlfriend. She was a few years older than me, and she was like really hot. Shout out if she's watching this. But some like 23-year-old just started harassing us both, and I just told him to get fucked, and he just punched me in the face, and my braces cut my mouth up, and was spitting out blood. Just stuff like that happened all the time. Like, I don't know, it's weird to think back then. I feel like had a target on my head or something all the time. I don't know why. I just look different or something. I don't know. I think also because you're young people. Well, it's weird. Like people look at me now and they're like, oh, you know, I wouldn't fuck with that guy. Or sometimes, but to me, I just feel like me still. So I don't really see myself like that. It's just how the world perceives you, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well as perception, because you mentioned earlier how you were very closed off emotionally, and I mean, maybe that was like what the aura that you were putting out there to people at the time was like, and people were taking it as like, as you said before, people thought you were arrogant or rude or just didn't give a fuck to a certain extent.
Yeah, for
Maybe
sure.
that's the way they're taking it, just going, hey, this guy just needs a smack in the fucking mouth.
Maybe, yeah, maybe that's a very good point, and it's very possible.
Well, dude, like you see, like when you work like in security, you see a lot of people on how they act, and you just sit there and like, I don't know about you, but I sat there and thought many times, like, wow, you've never been punched in the face, have you? like
Yeah,
because you know
man.
what, like if you've been punched in the fucking face like by someone really fucking hard, your perception on life will fucking change. Your behavior in what you put out to the universe will fucking change big time.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you realize like you encounter people in the world who just don't care. Like there's no honor, there's no integrity. They just do what they want, and you gotta everyone I know, like the toughest, most respectable people I know, usually keep a low profile, and they just kind of deal with stuff as it happens. Because everyone knows you can be a victim, really. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%, man. And to me, I've always like had the mentality like the baddest motherfuckers, they're not the ones that are sitting there beating their chest going like, I'm a fucking fighter, I'll fucking kill this. They're the guy who's sitting there quietly, who doesn't say a fucking word, sipping on a beer or whatever the fuck it is, or will be like, all right, who will try and back out of the situation because they know how bad they can fuck someone up. So it's like they're always the quieter person that it's like when pushed, bang, you're going to cop it.
Yeah, usually, like I'd say you're right 90% of the time, but there's also some mean dudes out there who just like being bad motherfuckers, which is cool too. But yeah, like I don't know,
Yeah.
you just gotta worry about yourself out there, man, and try and do the right thing, try to do the right thing around for other people too, I guess. So
Bro, so like your MMA record, right? So you're 8-3 as an amateur. You're ranked number 9 in Australia and New Zealand as in
the
welterweights.
rankings are such fucking bullshit. By the way, it goes by algorithm. Um, it's by like it has a massive recency bias, and anyway, there's dudes I've beaten who are above me, but yeah, anyway, so keep going. I'm triggered about that.
All right, all right, so we're gonna get on this topic, right? So how, like, where do you think you should be ranked?
Definitely top 3, but I don't give a fuck because my next fight's A class anyway. Like I'm not sure many people know about my MMA history, but I'm proud to say like I've had 11 fights. I think 6 of them have been fight of the night. And one of them I had was like fight of the year against Bruno Playfair. So I'm pretty seasoned. I've had some like crazy fights. And yeah, I think I have a good repertoire. I have a good record. That places me in the top level in the country at that level. But yeah, I don't know. Who cares really?
Like you mentioned, like your next fight, coming up after the boxing fight. Is this for your pro debut? This match?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So, like, as far as you for your career, like in MMA, like, where do you have a trajectory on where you want to go, like with MMA? Like, is UFC or ONE FC, or Bellator, part of your plans moving forward? Is that the road you want to go down, or is this just like, hey, I want to fight here in Australia, push myself to the limit, and see, where it takes me?
I've never been someone who says I want to do this and I'm going to go do it. It's just not how I function. I'm someone who just does what I want to do and tries my hardest at it. In respect to MMA, like my dream is to have a few or a fair few high profile international fights, and wherever that takes me, I don't really care. It's just fighting to me. Like I don't give a shit about being the best in the world or what organization I fight for. I just care about the fights and the honor and the spectacle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if this fight, coming up was still in the amateur ranks, like you wouldn't really give a shit as long as you're going in there and fighting someone who's a top caliber fighter.
Yeah, well, in in Australia we have like 3 classes, so there's like A, B, and C, and in B you get it's like still technically AMI, but you don't fight with shinies or big gloves or anything, and you still get paid a commission of tickets and all this shit. So it's kind of weird. But I just stayed there basically because I wanted to get used to performing at my best in front of the crowd, and however long that took, I'm happy to do that. But to me, like, it's just fighting. Like, I don't really care. People have really strong opinions on all that kind of stuff, but for me, it's just like it's just a fight. I don't really care.
How did you find, like, starting, having your first fight and going and fighting in front of people, like a big audience, like a fight show? What was
So
like, were you, sorry?
the first professional show I fought on was like Fight World Cup, and by that I mean like it had like it was professionally done. It had a large crowd. The fights before that were on ACFA, which were like quite a AMI, like shin guard type. So they were more like like arena type fights, and they were quite scary. But yeah, it wasn't too scary. But my fight at Fight World Cup, it was fucking scary because I hadn't really been to a live fight show. I've been to like 2 in my life, and then suddenly I was in front of like all these people, and I was so scared, dude. My skin was like, there's pictures of me beforehand, and my skin was like yellow. And I remember my friend Claire Fryer, she came up to me and was like, "Are you doing all right?" No, because I started hitting pads, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sick." And she's like, "Some color has returned to your skin, so that's good." And then I went out there and fought, and it was the fight of the night. And me and this dude, this man and I, beat the shit out of each other. And there was like blood everywhere and fucking gore, and my hair was completely saturated in blood, and I was saturated in blood. It was sick. And afterwards, it was weird. My skin was like a normal color, covered in blood. So that was like my first proper like fight in a spectacle, I guess. Yeah.
Like, how was the thought after having that like having the fight of the night for your first fight, coming back there covered in blood? Like, what was the emotion that you were going through at that time?
So it was actually my second fight of the night. So yeah, it was actually my second fight of the night. Man, it's weird. You're just glad it's over. It was sick. I was like, I remember I was in the shower and the water was red with blood coming out. I always talk about this to people. It's kind of weird because like nothing can prepare you for that. Like nothing can prepare you for getting your fucking eye broken and being covered in your own blood until you go through it. And if it happens in the real world, it gives people serious mental trauma. But then when it happens in the cage, I don't know, like you don't know what it's like till it happens to you. Like I know fighters who've had 10 fights and never experienced that before, but I've had the piss beaten out of me heaps of times in there. Which I'm happy. But yeah, it's weird. It's kind of like you get a relief, but in the moment it's so weird. Like I remember, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but in my 4th fight, the very first punch he threw busted my eye and completely closed. And then the second punch he threw busted my nose, and there was blood pissing out everywhere. And I remember touching it, and it was really thin because it mixed with my sweat and it was everywhere. And I remember like thinking, you think weird shit. I remember thinking like, oh no, my dad's watching this right now, and they're gonna worry that I'm not okay, but I'm totally okay. And then I was like thinking all this weird shit while fighting. But yeah, I don't know, that's some of the stuff that goes through your head, I guess.
Like while you're fighting, do you feel like, when you have thoughts come in there, like you've just got to let them come in and just like leave because you want to get in, you know what I mean? Because like I feel like when you're in there in the middle of a fight, you want to try and be as present as possible so you're in that moment and sort of being aware.
You definitely do, but you're also strangely cerebral as well. But it depends on the person. Like I'm quite cerebral in there. I kind of think without emotion. I just kind of become like a machine. And it's like I'm just doing algorithm. I'm just thinking in contingencies. You know what I mean? But I don't really have any emotion tied to the contingencies I'm thinking. But it depends. Like some people are angry, some people are not really emotional. I'm probably less on the emotional side when I'm fighting personally. But you think all kinds of things. Like I remember my 6th fight, I walked out there and got the shit beaten out of me straight away. And I remember thinking like, fuck this, I'm quitting. This dude was just hammering me. And I went back in the corner and my coach, Ryan Dunstan, was yelling at me, fucking, I remember what he said. He was just amping me up. He's saying, slow down, slow down. You're way more technical than this guy. Just slow the fight down. You're going to beat him. And in my head, I was like, fuck that. I'm going to get beaten up for 3 rounds. I'm not going to get finished. I'm going to go home. I'm going to quit. And in the second round, I just kind of listened to my coach, and I remember slamming him, and he let out like a cry of pain. And then I was like, oh, I've kind of broken him mentally, despite my face being a mess. And then I just kept on him and won. So yeah, they're kind of some of the thoughts I've personal experiences that I've had before.
Have you had like other experiences where you've had that sort of mentality that like while you're in there, you were like, I just want to quit. I want to give up right now. But
heaps of times. Yeah, heaps of times, man. Like for me, heaps of times. My first fight, I had it. I won that fight. My second fight, I didn't. My third fight, I didn't. My fourth and fifth, I wanted to quit multiple times in the fight, even though I was winning. But I lost both those fights. My sixth fight, I had that thought, and I still won. I probably shouldn't explain. I probably shouldn't say this much. Really, my competitors are watching it. I don't know, man. I'm happy to own it. Like you think all kinds of crazy shit in there, but I've never given up. I've never been broken mentally. So yeah, whatever. It happens. You think crazy shit, man.
Yeah, like I think like when you're in there and you're in an actual fight against a skilled opponent, you're going to I think have to have those moments of self-doubt, and it's just up if you just keep pushing through or not. So
yeah, exactly.
It's the mental toughness, I think, that really pushes it through. It's like, do I really want to quit right now? Do I really want to give up? No, I've still got something to go. It's like at the end as well, like we talk about getting punched in the face, and I think a lot of people on the other side of that think, oh, getting punched is going to really, really suck. Yeah, getting punched in the face sucks, but it's not really as bad as a lot of people think. You know what I mean? Like, depending who's throwing the punch, obviously, though.
I don't understand that. Like, a lot of people have said to me, oh, I could never, like, good grapplers or whatever. They're like, oh, I could never fight or do striking because I hate getting punched. Which I don't think is true or incorrect. I've just never thought that in my life. Like, I've just thought I just got punched. Like, what now? Like, I've never really thought this sucks. It's just like reality biting me. You know what I mean? It probably just depends on your general demeanor, I guess.
Oh, 100%. But we are getting to that time, ladies and gentlemen, where it is 60 seconds with Piers. How this works.
Wait, before we do this, there was like 2 questions that popped up that I wanted to answer. Do you know what they were?
Vicky, how to get tougher? You said you used to cry a lot. I think we covered that.
Not that one. I did cover that.
UFC. Favorite UFC.
Oh, favorite UFC fighter. Man, like all the Aussies, Whitaker, Tuivasa, Volk, obviously all those dudes. Jake Matthews, Jimmy Crute. They're all fucking sick. I like Peter Yan. I like Romero, even though he's left. I like Vittori. Yeah, that should be a few.
Nice. And what style did you first train with?
Boxing and Kung Fu at the same time.
There you go. But now we'll get into 60 seconds with Piers. So when you're ready for me to start the clock, let me know and I'll get the game started.
I'm not really I think too much about shit, so I'll probably answer like 5 of these questions. But yeah, let's go.
Okay. Which chore do you hate doing the most?
Folding clothes.
If you could time travel to past, what year would you go to and why?
2015. I don't know. At any time in the past to put more money on crypto than I did. Probably what everyone said.
What is the shittest gift you have ever received?
Nothing. I received for my birthday. I received fuck all recently, so that was pretty shit.
What TV series do you watch over and over?
I don't watch TV series at all.
What is your most embarrassing moment from school?
Oh, from school?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know from school, but there's a picture I want to post. I've got a picture of me with a black eye from a fight, like jet black, and I was with my ex-girlfriend and I peed myself in the car, and I've got a picture of it. It was her fault though. I'll explain the story another time and upload it. But yeah, that's embarrassing.
All good. What is your go-to party trick?
Dancing. I'm just a killer dancer. Kill that dance floor every time.
What actor would play you in a movie about your life?
Brad Pitt.
You have 24 hours to spend $2 million. How do you spend it?
Uh, the easy one, yacht, dying, drugs, women, men, drugs, yacht, I guess. I don't know. Something to do with dying.
Rock and roll. And last one, in 5 minutes' time, you are being shipped to outer space. What two personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
A guitar and I don't know, just that. Something I can work on to get better. An audiobook, a Kindle with 1,000,000 books on it.
That has been 60 Seconds with Piers with Viktor Lyall. Viktor, thank you so much for coming on. I can't believe we've just like almost hit an hour. I feel like the conversation has really flowed by, and I'd love to get you on for a part 2 if you're down for it in the future. But where can everyone find you on social media? Where can they get tickets to this Saturday's boxing match? Next Saturday's boxing fight and your MMA pro fight after that?
Yeah, so hit up my Insta, Impaler Vicky. I'll be posting details for the fight next weekend. I have tickets to buy. I'm still in negotiations for my next MMA fight, but I'm in camp for it. Yeah, hit me up. If you have questions, hit me up. Don't watch this. I feel really embarrassed. I just talked for an hour. It's real weird. Anyway.
I don't know, man.
Cool.
It's been good. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. I appreciate it. It goes a long way with the analytics, and it helps us reach more amazing people with more amazing conversations with amazing fucking guests like Viktor, the Impaler, Lyall. Thank you so much for coming on, Viktor. I appreciate it. And guys, we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.